Hi everyone, welcome to Stitch with Me Daily. I forgot the name of my channel because it's been so long. Today I'm working on The Grand Library by Amy Stewart, charted by Heaven Notes Designs. I started this in the top left corner and I decided I want to see how wide it went. And so I went all across the top row, parking the threads um, on the top row as I went. And now I am working in those threads and I'm starting on the right side. I'm just, I still want to park, but I'm working in the threads along the top row just because I prefer to work kind of in chunks versus going across the top whole row. I don't know. So let me pull this up on my pattern keeper here and I can get started. Um, let's see. Okay, so it's been a while, and I need to get back into the groove of remembering how to make sure I'm in or on the camera when I'm stitching. So let me just fix this. I stitch in hand, and so I roll the part that I've already worked on, as well as I roll the part that I'm holding in my left hand, and I clip it all together with these clips that are used for quilting, the like fabric sort of clips. Yeah. So I just want to give you a heads up. Today I'm going to talk about what I've been up to. It's going to be kind of rambly, but also the subject matter might get kind of deep and serious. And if you're not interested in that, I completely understand. If you want to, maybe catch my next video, that'd be great. And just know I appreciate you clicking and checking this out. Yeah, but so what I'm going to talk about is the loss of a pet and kind of how that ended up affecting my cross stitching. So the last video that I filmed, um, so okay, so the last video I filmed and uploaded right after filming was one that I recorded back on November 2nd. And in that video, in fact, my cat Reddick is there with me. And he had been sick for a couple months, and we had been taking him to the vet, and they were kind of narrowing down what it was. Um, and then they said, well, we really think that you should get an appointment with a specialist, which I made an appointment and it was set for the end of November. Um, but before then, and it was November 11th was when he passed away. So between the 2nd and the 11th, we had taken him again to the vet, and it got to a point where I was like, okay, we need to, I'm taking to a specialist, like an oncologist specialist, I think it was. And I said, but is there something you can do here just at the vet office? Could you like biopsy? I don't want to wait till the end of November to figure out if maybe you guys can just tell us. And they did biopsy. And they originally said that it might take a couple days to get the lab results, but they were able to tell me right then and there that he had an aggressive form of nasal cancer. And unfortunately, nasal cancer, I don't know if it's with all the cases or it was just his with where it was. I'm not really sure. But there wasn't going to be an option for recovery. And at that point, we just needed to make some tough decisions. And the most important thing to us was that we did not want him to be in pain or to be uncomfortable. And so we made the decision, and we know it was the right decision and it was at the right time, but it was heartbreaking. And so, fast forward a couple months, and I don't even know if it was a couple months. I decided, oh, let me just cross stitch. And the first time I started back at cross stitching, I realized that, oh, yep, little kitten, new kitten. Um, but when I went to pick up my cross stitch again, I realized that this hobby that was kind of a refuge or a, you know, great way to de-stress was now so closely tied into memories of Reddick, and it was very difficult because it bring all of that back, and it just wasn't necessarily as comforting as it had been. So I need to figure out a way, or I wanted to figure out a way to be able to stitch uh, and be okay with it, and be okay with the fact that I'd sit down and it would remind me of Reddick, because whenever I would stitch, Reddick would always either be on my lap, or if I was on the couch, he was right next to me. And so I had to give myself time, and that meant, the first day back at cross stitching, it was maybe just 5 minutes, and the next time it was maybe 10 minutes. And I remember the first couple times it was just difficult. I would be stitching, and I'd have to just put it down and walk away, because it was still just reminded me so much of Reddick. And I think that's interesting, right? I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't. I guess in my mind, I was like, cross stitch is what I go to when I just kind of want to relax. And then all of a sudden, it wasn't that for me. So then you had to kind of reframe that, right? That part of your life. I did. I did go back, and I picked up some knitting. Did some knitting. When I wasn't cross stitching. But that was also interesting because whenever I knit, I also crochet. When I knit and crochet, and also probably with my cross stitching, but like there's always cat fur in it. And so it's just kind of interesting, getting back to some of those projects that I still had, those works in progress, like the knitting and the crochet stuff. And I'm like, okay, this stuff probably still has like pieces of fur from Reddick that I'm stitching in here. But yeah, so that is why my channel took a longer break than I thought it would, because it took a while for me to get back to stitching, and getting back to even wanting to film, because the last so I've since posted a couple videos, um and those two videos, let me see when I posted. I think I posted one like I posted in January a couple videos. And those videos, I had actually filmed them before Reddick passed away. And so they were sitting in my phone, but I just had never edited them into a video. So that's how I had that footage, and I just turned it into um, a video, but I actually wasn't stitching on them. I think one of them I might have. I think one of them I was like, I set some really big, lofty goals, and it was really difficult. Anyways, yeah, so I want to show you guys this. I've started threading my needle. So I always used to do it using needle threader, but now I do this and I just fold the floss in half and then crease it really well, kind of like you're creasing a piece of paper, I guess, right? Like when you fold a piece of paper in half and then you crease it, and then that little crease, you hold it between your fingers and you can just thread it through the needle. I think it also depends on what kind of needle you use because these needles have a little bit of a bigger eye. They're size 26, but I have some other brands of needles and the eye is longer versus wider. And this technique doesn't work as well, but with this one it does. And I love it because now I don't even have to use my needle threader. I just fold the thread and it works. Um, okay, so since Reddick passed away, or after Reddick passed away, we still had his sister, Ziba, and the two of them are 9 years old. We had rescued them when they were just a few months old, and so we still had Ziba. But our house definitely felt like it needed more. We needed another cat, and so we had, excuse me, we went to our local humane society, and we were planning on adopting another tabby cat, like what Reddick and Ziva were. And they did not have a tabby cat that was ready to be adopted. Instead, we found a 3-year-old cat, or they didn't have any kittens. We were looking for kittens. We found a 3-year-old cat, and he was this big gray fluff ball, and fell in love with him. His personality reminded us of Reddick in that he was so chill. Like, um, he just seemed like this really kind-hearted kitten. And all that they knew about him was that he had been a stray. So we adopted him. His name is Diggs. And the great thing about Diggs is that because he had been a stray, he's a long-haired gray cat. Because he had been a stray, nobody had been um, brushing him. And long-haired cats need to get brushed or else they get mats. So his fur was matted, and because it was so matted, they had to shave kind of the back part of his body. And so sometimes now we refer to him as Pants because it looks like he doesn't have his pants on. Okay, so we brought Diggs home, and unfortunately, since he was also a stray, well, let me proper grammar here. So, because he was a stray, he had never really learned to snuggle. He wasn't a snuggle bug, and that was kind of something that we wanted. But we're like, okay, we'll give him time to figure that out. But we brought him home, and him and Ziva, they kind of just coexisted. He would spend a lot of time in one room, and she would be in the other room, and they didn't really interact too much. I mean, they weren't mean to each other or hateful. They just kind of just, I don't know, just didn't interact. And so we thought, we had two cats, like, let's get a third because this is going so well. So we went back to the cat rescue where we had rescued Reddick and Ziva from. And again, looking for a tabby kitten. We found a kitten who was super outgoing and very adorable. He was an all black cat, and we adopted him. We're like, yes, let's get this guy. Um, and so we have named him Six after the character in the Gray Man movie. It's a movie with Ryan Gosling. So Six when we adopted him, had his little ears were still healing. They were kind of um, recovering from he had had ringworm, and so he was fine. He was no longer contagious, so that's how we were able to adopt him. But his ears still, were a little dry, and we're so happy to adopt him because I remember reading, and I don't know, how much this still holds true, and maybe people who are more familiar with and cat rescues would know, but I had read on the internet that black cats are often the last cats to get adopted, or their stay at like their average stay at um, a place like a rescue or the Humane Society is longer than other cats because people aren't as willing to adopt black cats. And I just thought um, that was interesting when I heard it. And now we're in a position where we could adopt a black cat. And not only that, we could adopt a black cat who had, his ears were still healing. And I was like, he might not have been adopted. I mean, I'm sure. Okay, to be fair, our cat rescue is pretty great, and there's kittens like get adopted really easily. But we're glad that we were able to bring him home, and he fits in so well with our family and with the dynamic of the other two cats we have because Ziva just thinks this kitten is, she enjoys him at times. Um, at times also she just wants her space. She just likes to sleep and not be bothered by these two rambunctious little guys. But Six has done wonders for Gray, for Diggs, because Diggs didn't really know how to play. Again, he had been a stray, so he didn't really know how to like play with toys. He hardly ever meowed for anything, so he didn't know how to like meow if he wanted something. And since we've brought Six home, the two of them play all the time, like you would assume brothers would. And um, the two of them are always hungry. And so Diggs has started to play with toys with Six and also has started to also meow when he's hungry, which is, I swear, I mean, they eat all the time. They crack me up. Um, so we're doing better, and it's not about replacing Reddick because we just knew that would never happen, but it's about the fact that we definitely know and we knew that we loved being cat owners and we love spoiling cats, and Reddick was such a big part of our family and our household that something, well, we decided it was time. It was like there was a place in our family to rescue and to care for and love and spoil some other cat. And, we thought one cat and it turned out to be two. But I also love the fact that, the cats we got are cats that maybe would have spent a longer time there than other ones. They weren't these cute little perfect kittens. We had this 3-year old former stray who was half shaven. And then we have this black cat who has these little dry ears. And I mean, not that they're misfits, but like they were kind of the ones that might have been overlooked by other people. And so, it's great to see some of the toys that Reddick loved to play with, and like We have these two cat houses that because we're big baseball fans and they look like baseball hats and for two of our favorite teams. And so now to see um, those cat houses being used by them, and Ziva has a cat house too. She has her own heated cat house that's indoors. She loves that thing. So um, a vote for uh, getting your cat a heated cat house, and uh, and just the toys that Reddick would play with. Now seeing a couple little kittens. Well, Jakes isn't really a kitten; he's 3 years old. But to see a couple other cats playing with them, it's heartwarming, and I've aspects of their personality remind me of Reddick, and I think Reddick would have loved them. I think, yeah, maybe he would have loved having these two little brothers, but that definitely would have been a lot to have 4 cats. So we're just a 3 cat family right now. Um, yeah, so that's what I've been up to, and well, I mean, not just that, but I've been working. I work from home, so I've been working and doing some other things, and just giving myself time and space to figure out um, how to cross stitch again, how to be okay with cross stitching when I didn't have the cat that I used to have, and now having these other 2 new cats. It's definitely interesting having a kitten again because this kitten, let me tell you, I forgot I forgot what it was like with having a kitten in the household. And I think that's like people when they're like, oh, when they get puppies, they're like, oh, I forgot what it was like to have a puppy. Or, I mean, I guess if you're to have like a baby in the house again. But it's kind of like, yes, it's like having to childproof everything. And you're like, oh, I forgot. I forgot that I have to watch X, Y, and Z. And but he's good. And we're glad to have these kittens. Okay, so I think I'm going to call it um, a day. I think I'll call this the end of the video. I'm just going to finish off some stitches here. But I'm so thankful that you clicked on this video, you watched. If you stuck through all my rambling, thank you for that. Um, you know, I guess I want to share that as a little vulnerable. It's not my typical thing. Just to say, I understand that when they say it's okay to not be okay. And that's kind of what it was. It was allowing myself space um, to just kind of get back to a point where I was okay and I was ready to um, stitch again and film some more. And I'm glad I gave myself that time because I never wanted any of this to feel forced, to feel like I had to do it. I always want to be here because this is what I want to do. So, okay, I'm gonna have to move some fabric here, but thank you, and I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful day. And enjoy your stitching. Okay, bye.